Hi, I'm Lucy from Sew Essential and I'm here today to share the Simplicity Bias Tape Maker. This machine will allow you to create metres and metres of perfectly pressed and folded bias binding at the touch of a button. It will allow you to choose the perfect fabric to customise your bias binding and get the perfect match for your project. So if you're somebody who loves a bit of home dec or quilting, or perhaps you're a dressmaker and you just love bias binding, this machine will amaze you what it can do. It's available on our website and I'll pop a link to it below, but let's watch the video now and see the magic happen. Stay tuned to the end of the video where I'll show you how to create the bias strips to use with the machine. Included in the box you'll find a fabric spool to feed your fabric around, a fabric guide that allows the fabric to feed accurately into the detachable nozzle. There's also an iron plate cover, an on-off button, a fabric dial to select the type of fabric that you're working with, a ready button which will turn green and indicate when the machine's ready to use, a run button and an iron reset button. You also get an additional 5 nozzles included in the box. So we've got a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch, a 3/4 inch, a 1 inch and a 1 1/4 inch nozzle included. And to make the width of bias that you require, to make a 1/4 inch bias, you need to cut fabric strips that are double the width of the nozzle. So for a 1/4 inch bias, you would cut fabric strips that are 1/2 inch wide. For a 1/2 inch bias, finished bias, you would cut fabric strips that are 1 inch wide. To use the bias tape maker, the first thing we need to do is get the fabric onto the spool. So to do this, you just pop the end of the fabric in the slot, clip it under the metal clip to secure it, like so. And then you wind the fabric onto the spool and you just want to keep the fabric nice and taut as you do that, not too tight but just nice and taut. And then place the spool into the holder, feed the fabric across the guide, remove the attachment and feed the end of the fabric through the attachment. It's easier to have a point on your fabric to do this. So just feed that through, and you probably want to use some tweezers or an unpicker to just help you to feed that through, especially if you're working with a lovely slippery cotton lawn like me. And then you want to click the attachment back onto the machine, pull enough fabric through so that it reaches the end of the machine, and then put the iron cover on. So everything's secure now. We just need to press the on/off button onto on, and I've selected cotton or linen for my fabric because I'm using a cotton lawn. Just wait for the machine to heat up. Once the ready button turns green, you're ready for the really fun part. So we just press run and you can see the binding feeding through beautifully, being folded and pressed as it comes through the machine. So you can see there I've got beautifully folded, pressed bias binding that's a 1 inch wide. I used a 2 inch strip and the 1 inch attachment, and you can see it's beautifully pressed and finished. There's the join of the 2 pieces of fabric. You can see that that's gone through beautifully as well, and that's ready for me to use on my sewing projects now. To make the bias strips, you can use your fabric to find a 45-degree angle by folding it like so, and then you can draw a line along the fold and work from that 45-degree angle to create your strips. However, lots of people do like to use a quilting ruler and cutting mat 'cause it makes the job even easier. A quilter's ruler has got markings on it for 45-degree angles, and also it's got markings on it to help you cut the widths of fabric that you want to. For the fabric strips, you just cut double the width of the nozzle or attachment that you're using on the machine. So it helps you to do that job, and you can also use the 45-degree markings on the cutting mat as well. So for example, if I was going to use the 45-degree angle on the ruler, I would just line that 45-degree angle up with the edge of the fabric, and then if I cut along here, that will create a 45-degree angle for me to work from. The other thing is I can see the 45-degree line on the cutting mat, so I can also use that as a starting point. So if I just line the ruler up with those 45-degree angles, and then I'm just going to use my rotary cutter because it gives you real accuracy using these tools and a rotary cutter. If I just cut down that line like so, I've created the 45-degree angle, and then I can work from this piece and I can use the markings on the ruler. So if I want to cut a piece that is 2 inches wide, for example, I just line the marking for 2 inches up with the edge of the fabric, and then I just cut along the edge of the ruler to give me an accurate 2-inch wide strip of bias. Again, I can use different markings on the ruler, so I could use the 1-inch marking to create a narrower 1-inch strip for the 1/2-inch attachment for the bias tape maker. And there you have it. So all of these tools are available on our site. I will pop a link to those below. The other thing I should mention is that you're probably going to need to join some bias to make long enough strips for some of your projects. So the way that you do that is you just make sure that you've got a right angled edge on the bias. So I'm just going to cut that one off and then cut it here as well. This is just an example to show you how to join it. But you would just take the right angle edges and you would line them up at right angles with one another, right sides together, and then you would stitch across the diagonal to join the two edges, and then you would stitch that in place, and once you've done that you open it up and your bias is joined like so, and you just trim the excess off the seam allowances and that will feed nicely through the machine. I hope you enjoyed that little demonstration, and I'm sure you can see just how addictive this machine actually is. If you want to get your hands on one, just check out the links below. They're available on our website and you'll find all the links you need below. If you like what you see today, please like and subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.